desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, but I know that you got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you will hurt you somehow. Prettiest girl, we got it all now.
And here we are again. What do you say? We've got tonight. Who needs tomorrow? We got tonight, babe. Why don't you stay?
And made me such a fool. I'm so lost in your love. And oh, we belong together. Won't you believe in my song?
Mr. Kenneth Rogers, everybody. I tell you what, we have been so excited about this because Kenny, of course, says he's retiring. I want to see what condition your condition's really in. Looks good to me, don't it, you?
Islands in history, that is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong? Sail away to another world, and we rely on each other. From one lover to another.
Sound Rule 1 on November 4th, Saturday.
Without a six-piece band, you'd be amazed how poor I sing. I don't even know what kid it is. Isn't that funny?
He was pop, he was country, he was all of it.
He's an American icon.
I think people just fell in love with him so deep.
Kenny's had 24 #1 hits.
You got to know when to hold it,
I think of that little twinkle in his eye and that beard and just great songs.
when to walk away, know when to run.
A song hadn't been sung until Kenny Rogers got a hold of it, and then it's been done.
Feelings done.
I had to audition on the phone from a hotel lobby.
The first edition.
They were really cool. They sang all kinds of music.
His voice stood out. He had that little rasp.
Don't take your love to town.
When the first edition broke up, I was totally lost.
I remember specifically a phone call from him saying, look, I can't take this anymore.
It was at a time, it was a very low period in my life.
Every time you'd think that he might be down and out, he was the comeback kid.
This is like he was the Beatles or something, you know? It was just crazy.
Women literally ready to throw their panties on stage.
He got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Kenny's little hacienda has a 13-car garage, a private elevator, and 35 rooms.
Kenny became this amazing spokesperson.
Can't go on pretending day by day.
That was the session of the century.
Kenny and Dolly connect so amazingly.
I was always such a feisty little thing. Pinch him on the butt or whatever.
She's the only person I've ever seen that could make him speechless.
Here we are, both of us lonely, and Mary Ann out there somewhere.
Don't you start that.
Kenny Dolly works. People are just like, oh my God.
Everybody Everybody always thinks that you're fooling around with whoever you're singing with, and a lot of times you do. We've been accused of it all through the years. You are retiring. You want to hold them now?
Hall of Famer Kenny Rogers saying goodbye to fans surrounded by country royalty.
Playing his final show in Nashville.
It was necessary. We do something that really brings together the newer artists, the older artists, because Kenny just deserved to be celebrated.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are honoring a musical legend.
It was just amazing the number of artists that came forward and said, please, I want to be a part of it.
Please welcome Little Big Time, Chris Stapleton.
Mr. Rocker will be sitting there watching and listening and hopefully enjoying whatever it is we're doing.
Lady Antebella, Lionel Richard Reba.
It's the end, but it's a celebration. Kenny's the real deal, period. End of story. Drop the mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
I don't think anybody in the history of music has ever had a better ear for hit songs, nor could they sing them better than you. All the years I've worked with Kenny, I never get tired of hearing him sing.
That's so nice.
I'm serious. I just thought that night was so special. But I thought, is this really so? Could this really be the last time we're going to get to do this? So I think more than anything, I was kind of sad in my heart about it.
I've known Dolly for 30 years, so I think it's so sweet of her to come here so that I can say goodbye properly.
I just wanted to say that I'm really, really proud of you. I just hope that many, many years from now, when I'm older, that I'll know when to hold them and when to fold them. Yeah. He will always hold a special place in my heart. It's really a powerful moment just to say goodbye to my dear, dear friend. But I just thought it was a perfect way to send Kenny into retirement.
Yeah. Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's going on, man? You all right?
Good to see you.
Your will tour, is this bittersweet for you?
Well, you know, you don't do something for 70 years and just walk away from it. So, yeah, it is bittersweet in that respect.
With all that Kenny has made in his life, he, like me, was brought up very poor. We understood that world and how much we wanted things.
We were poor, there's no doubt about that.
We struggled, you know, but we had faith that we would make it through.
He lived on the other side of the tracks. He lived in the Houston projects.
Kenny, I think, from a very early age, is acutely aware that his life in the projects is not like just a few blocks over, where somebody has a nice sprinkler system and a lawn. You don't have that in the projects.
It's just a little community. We call it San Felipe Courts. Everybody got along, everybody knew everybody.
There was always music. He had uncles that played, you know, and he himself was, you know, highly musical.
My father played fiddle, and all his brothers and sisters played instruments. And they would all get on the front porch and play, and all the family would sit out in the yard.
Kenny sang all the time. I think he's always wanted to sing. My mom used to work at a hospital, and he would go over there and sing to the nurses.
He has this band in high school, the Scholars, and they managed to actually get some national attention.
In 1957, Kenny had a doo-wop hit called That Crazy Feeling. He even made it onto American Bandstand.
I remember sitting there watching it. It was just amazing that he would be on American Bandstand. I thought that was great.
Lord, my mother, she called everybody in town and told them, turn your TV on. My son's gonna be on there. Well, so we tried to get all the ratings up and have everybody turn on 2 and 3 TVs.
That was my first inkling that there was something to it. He was gonna go to the top.
The Bobby Dole Trio on Columbia Records, which is a big label, needs a bass player.
Bobby asked me if I'd play upright bass, and I said, I don't play bass, I play guitar. And he said, I know, but there's more demand for bad bass players than bad guitar players.
As an old lady born in California would say, it's the most unusual thing.
A A DJ down in Houston took me to a little club, and there was the Bobby Doyle Trio playing, and he was playing with the trio as the bass player, stand-up bass.
You don't think of Kenny as an instrumental wonder, but he was apparently good enough.
As much as he loved Bobby, you know, he just knew that he wanted to do something besides stand up there and strum on that upright bass. I think he was trying to get to that next step.
A guy named Mike Settle, musical director for the New Christy Minstrels. When they started looking for a guy that sang high and played bass, he called me and said, we'd love to have you sing something for us. And I said, well, I mean, I can do, I could send you a tape. He said, no, I kind of need to make a decision in the next 2 or 3 days. And I had to audition on the phone from a hotel lobby, and I would sing green, 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 and they would say louder.
Green, green, it's green, they say, on the far side of the hill.
And people are walking by, and I realized how stupid that looks, so I'm kind of holding it back. And no, louder, green, green. And he said, oh, that's perfect. And I went to LA to join the New Christy Minstrels.
The New Christy Minstrels were a very unique folk group, because in the days of folk music, it was usually trios and quartets. The Christys came out with this 10-piece band. The original members ended up leaving, and they would hire other people to come in.
I was the 68th Christy Minstrel. It was a great place to go and to learn, you know, and so that's why people come and go.
We traveled for a year with the New Christy Minstrels singing Christy songs. But Mike Settle started writing these contemporary songs which the Christys didn't want to do. So Mike said, well, maybe we should toy with the idea of starting our own group. And we started the first edition out of the New Christy Minstrels.
Kenny was a lot older, and it was like anybody over 30 you can't trust, you know, in our generation.
Kenny was sort of different than the rest of the group. He was quite a bit older. He was married. They were young. He was trying to fit with a young group.
So he grew his hair a little longer, and he grew a beard.
Rose-colored glasses and leather jacket. He was trying basically to be hip.
We'd never actually been out there on our own as a group until we did the Ledbetters for the first time.
Ledbetters was a little club in Los Angeles.
Ken Cragen came down and heard us.
I was one of the producers on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and I went down, and I was knocked out.
The next thing I knew, there we were on the Smothers Brothers show.
Here they are singing this weird, messed up song, the first edition.
Kenny was the bass player, but he wasn't any big deal. He wasn't necessarily singing leads, except on some songs. Like Just Dropped In to See What My Condition Was In.
We were anything but a psychedelic band. We just weren't. None of us were drinkers and smoke, you know, and then we had probably the most psychedelic record ever written.
There was such a drug culture at that time, and the song just sort of fit right into that. None of us really knew what the words meant, you know, it's... All we knew was that when we played it and sang it, everybody loved it.
I pushed my soul in a deep dark hole, and then I followed it in.
Kenny Rogers in the first edition, man, they had more soul than you can fit in 3 minutes.
I watched myself crawling out as I was crawling in. Down up so tight, I could not unwind. I saw so much, I broke my mind. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
Jimi Hendrix said, "It's one of my favorite records. Your solo kills, man. I love it." Oh, Jimi Hendrix, whoa.
Kenny becomes sort of by accident part of the youth culture of the time.
We did 27 television shows that year. We were on the road so much that we just came into town. We'd be there 1 or 2 days to do a show. We were back out on the road.
When Kenny got the first hit, everything started to change because the record company said, we want another one just like that in that vein, but that was a fluke song because we didn't do that kind of music.
Our follow-up to Just Dropped In, called Charlie the Fertile Ants, which was about a snake.
Charlie, Charlie, what you gonna call
It was an obvious attempt at being Just Dropped In like. Fell flat on its tuchus. And we're going, whoa, maybe we're history.
I didn't know where to go. I was totally lost.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to present this group. They are called the First Edition, and I wonder why. They are dressed beautifully, and I think you are the leader, are you not?
Well, not really. We're all kind of share the responsibility and the blame. If something goes wrong, everybody's a leader.
Well, may I ask your name?
Sure, Kenny Rogers.
Just Dropped In was an anomaly. It was not what this group was about.
Our follow-up to Just Dropped In fell flat on its tuchus.
The First Edition was having trouble days. It was kind of painful. On top of everything else, Kenny's marriage was on the rocks.
Oh, man. Yep. I remember a couple of times in New York, Kenny and Margot had the room next to mine, and they'd go at it. And it was just not a good thing.
I don't know what their differences were, but they had some. A lot.
Several members of the group came to me and said, if you don't get Kenny to keep his personal issues out of the group, we'll have to replace him.
I don't know that they stayed together too long after that.
He knew what it was going to take to get where he wanted to be, and he wasn't going to really let anything stand in his way.
We probably went a year and a half before the First Edition released anything.
When it came time to put out a song and we didn't have a song, Kenny said, what about Ruby? We'll put Ruby out. We'd been doing it on the road for a long time. It was one of our biggest songs.
You've painted up your lips and rolled and curled your tinted hair.
That's what we did. That's when we started heading down the country road.
Ruby, are you contemplating going out somewhere?
It's a Mel Tillis song about a wounded vet.
It's a true story about the Korean War, but everybody assumed it was about Vietnam. Considered a protest record, I guess, in a way, you know.
It wasn't me that started that old crazy Asian war.
The real breakthrough in Ruby was singing a lyric.
It's hard to love a man whose legs are bent and paralyzed.
There was just so much feeling, so much emotion about the war at the time.
They did songs that pushed the envelope of making you think about something.
But I was proud to go and do my patriotic chore.
Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town went absolutely crazy. The biggest record we ever had.
His voice stood out in the sense he had that little rasp, and that made it.
He's so distinct in his phrasing and his way that he says words and the little bit of edge he can put on things when he wants to.
There was a lot of emotional weight in that voice. You know, he could really make you hear a song. And I think that was the secret. I think it really was.
For God's sakes, turn around.
When Kenny Rogers goes out front, now you have a tendency of looking for songs that are good for Kenny Rogers, not necessarily the First Edition.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, Kenny Rogers and the First Edition.
Once the name change happened, the whole focal point of the group shifted.
I knew that was going to eventually happen. It was a natural thing for it to be Kenny and the First Edition.
Because I had sung the records on the singles, I was elected to be the image of the group, so to speak.
When I look back on it now, I think what a train I was on. I was so young that I didn't really understand what it meant and what was expected of me. I was getting tired of traveling on a bus, sleeping on the bus. After 3 years on the road, I just basically had it, you know.
All right.
Reuben James. It was one of my favorites.
Reuben James is interesting because it's a country tune, but it has a message.
Reuben James.
It's about racial tolerance.
All the folks around Madison County cussed your name.
It's a song about a little white child who is embraced by an older black man who becomes a father figure. My hat's off to Kenny for making it a hit.
Reuben James, you still walk the bird fields of my mind. The faded shirt, the weather brow, the calloused hands upon the plow. I love you then and I love you now. Reuben James.
Just a great song that people can relate to, sing along with. Kenny's had the knack to find those songs.
And although your skin was black, you were the one that didn't turn your back on the hungry white soul. Reuben James.
If Kenny has a secret weapon, that's what it is. He gets the essence of a story song. They tell a compelling story, and you hang on them to see what's he gonna sing next.
Kent State University has had campus violence for 3 nights, causing the National Guard to be called in.
We were performing at Kent State like a week after the shooting and the riots.
Today, the guardsmen opened fire on the students, killing 4 of them, 2 young men and 2 young women. A dozen or more others were wounded, some by gunfire and some by bayonets.
We're in this building that we can still smell is all burned out. And we're doing Tell It All, Brother for the first time.
Tell it all, brother, before we fall.
I remember when it came out thinking that it spoke volumes about where we were in the culture at the time.
How much you holding back on me?
Well, we got to the chorus of Tell It All, Brother, and these students at Kent State, all of them stand.
Tell it all, brother. Sing it with everybody. Before we fall. Tell it all, brothers and sisters. Oh, tell everybody. Tell it all.
They're standing on their feet, singing. Whew. I get really emotional thinking about it.
Tell it all, brother. Before we fall. Tell it
The focus was the music and the song. If the song had a good message, that was all the better. And they had this wonderful family broad appeal where the kids could really love them and the adults could like them as well.
Alcoa presents the first edition. They're singing about easy open aluminum bottle caps and ring top cans.
He's got a ring for your finger, baby. Makes it easy to apply.
The most vivid thing that happened during this era was when Kenny and the First Edition got their own TV show. They were really cool. They sang all kinds of music, all different things, and they had really cool guests.
We had people like Edgar Winter and the James Gang and Badfinger and Ike and Tina Turner. Just everybody came on to do the show.
When we put the group together, we decided that as far as the show went, that we were not going to fabricate characters. And it was just very fortunate for us that Terry happens to be dumb and stupid.
Kenny and I's routines came out of the routines we used to do in the New Christian Minstrels, which were comedy routines, and it grew into the First Edition stuff.
There is no lead on Camptown Races. It's unison.
Oh, then I'll sing lead unison then.
That's the way we would banter back and forth, and, you know, we still do it today.
You go do-da, do-da.
Perfect.
Yeah.
They'd had a long run. They'd had 4 or 5 years of hits.
They were still out there on the road, but there were no more hits. From after 73, there were no more hits.
They just ran out of steam. Literally, the last engagement they played was at Magic Mountain, an amusement park. And there was just a general deterioration of every aspect of the group. So they broke up at that point.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, but condition, my condition was heavy.
The time you can't get back, very emotional for me, very.
When the first edition broke up, I was totally lost. I mean, I always wanted to be a group singer. I love singing harmony. I never wanted to be a solo singer. But the group kind of broke up around me, and I had no choice.
I broke my mind.
It was frightening.
What condition, my condition was in.
When the first edition broke up, I didn't know where to go.
He was devastated. Well, where do you go? I've been with the group here for a little while by myself. What do I do?
There was a point when he was on his own that he really didn't have a clue if he was going to be able to have a career.
Kenny had to kind of find his way and started trying to create his career anew.
Kenny had a strong drive. The drive is as important as the talent. There's many talented people out there who never make it. You have to have a certain amount of, I've got to do this. And that came from his mother.
Kenny's mom, Lucille, had a third-grade education, and she raised 8 kids.
She worked as a licensed nurse, and then at night she'd climb on that bus and go uptown, and she'd mop floors. She'd do anything. Kenny never forgot that. So he went to Nashville.
Maybe it was Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town that did that. It was like, you know what? That song came from Nashville. Maybe I need to go there.
When you get to a point to where you know you want to go on, but you don't know which road to take, and you're afraid you'll take the wrong road, those are the scariest moments.
When I wrote the song, I think it was really basically how I felt about myself and about everything else, but it was at a time, it was a very low period in my life.
Good to go? Sweet music, man.
Yeah?
Did you write that about Waylon? Is that a true story?
I wrote about Waylon Jennings.
Wow. That's really...
We started out with about Waylon. By the time I finished, it was about me.
Sing your song, sweet music man. 'Cause I won't be there to hold your hand like I used to.
1976, I was playing in a trio. We were anything but country. We were kind of an R&B band. This club owner and Kenny walk in the place, and he said, I really like you guys. I'm gonna need a band. He worked some little private parties and some tiny little rodeos. And I remember one time we worked a show and there was hardly anybody in the crowd. And then he didn't have any more work. And he said, sorry guys, go back to do what you were doing. And when I get some more work, I'll call you.
He was pretty downtrodden at that point. And I remember specifically a phone call from him saying, look, I can't take this anymore. I mean, it's just so downgrading and it's really got me depressed. And I'm not even sure if I should stay in the music business. Maybe I should just get out, you know?
They don't need you. You're still a hell of a singer, but a broken man. You keep on looking for one last fan to sing them to.
There's a purging that takes place in a songwriting process. And, but that particular song says everything I wanted to say.
I think Sweet Music Man's very much autobiographical. The hits have stopped. You know, he's alone in a motel. He's trying to make it and struggling. I think he's very much writing his life in that song.
The sing your song, Sweet Music Man, I believe in you. I really think that I felt that about myself. I felt that I really believe that if I stay in here, I can make this thing work. And it was against insurmountable odds almost at the time, but it's amazing what a little confidence can do and a lot of good luck.
But nobody sings a love song quite like you do, and nobody else could
could make me sing along. And nobody else could make me feel that things are right when they're wrong with a song. Nobody sings a love song quite like you.
Sing your song, sweet music man. I believe